Ciao a tutti, this is Marcello from Italy, and this is the third episode of our video series Italy's Darkest Hours, 1943-1945. Okay, probably you remember the last time we left you with the ousting of Mussolini and his imprisonment. So it was July 25th, 1943. And Hitler has met Mussolini just a few days before, on July 19th. And when he hears about Mussolini's imprisonment and he meets his generals in the Wolfschanze, the Wolf's Lair, he screams irrefrenably, "Betrayal, betrayal, they betrayed us," as in World War I. He is referring to the fact that Italy was formerly allied with Germans in 1914, but decided to stay neutral when the war broke out. And then after 1 year, it signed a secret alliance with the French and the British and started fighting with Austrians and Germans and themselves. So Hitler wants to act now. He does not recognize the Badoglio government. He wants to occupy Italy. So his generals induce him to stop, but everyone fully understand that the reassuring statements of the king and Marshal Badoglio are fake. They just want to buy some time. On the contrary, it's much better to take advantage of the time that this choice makes available to the German armed forces to gradually invade the country and occupy it. So now it all depends on the intentions of the Allies. Where will they strike next? The Germans have experimented in Sicily with the tactics of a slow, controlled retreat, and they have no intentions of abandoning southern and central Italy, which offer many possibilities of valid defense thanks to the rivers and the mountain ranges. You remember the Apennines and rivers flowing both parts eastwards to Mar Tirreno and westward to Mar Adriatico. So the Germans hope that the Allies will climb the peninsula from Calabria, from the bottom, and that's precisely what they will do, unfortunately for Italy. From the Brenner, units of the Wehrmacht, the German army, begin to flow into Italy. And in South Tyrol, you remember the German-speaking part of Italy, they act as if they were already in annexed territory. Formally, in Rome, the relationship between the two commands remains quite correct, but in reality, the Germans see Italy as a potential ally of the Allies. For the Allies, the time is ripe. On the evening of July 27th, Commander-in-Chief Eisenhower sends a clever radio message to the Italians saying that if the Italians want peace, they can have it immediately, and the Allies come as liberators, and all the traditions of the Italians will be restored. It's a carrot, but it's accompanied by a hard stick. At the same time, the Allies intensify bombings on Italian cities in Genoa, Milan, Padua, Bologna, Florence. One in particular is to be remembered. Milan, August 16th, 1943, it's a Sunday night. And a wave of Royal Air Force bombers targets the city center, and one bomb weighing 1.8 tons strikes the area of the Church of Santa Maria delle Grazie. It's not a common place. In the refectory of the church, on the north wall, Leonardo da Vinci in 1498 painted his masterpiece, L'Ultima Cena, the Last Supper. The blast reduces the east wall of the refectory to rubble and brings the roof down with it. Fortunately, in view of this, in 1940, local art officials concerned about the very possibility of a bombing had installed sandbags and pine scaffoldings and metals bracing on both sides of the north wall. The loss of the east wall and the roof dissipates the delicate microclimate inside the refectory, and the summer heat, remember we are in August, increases the moisture in the wall, causing portions of the painted surface to swell and then lift. The bomb blast dislodges the sandbags, tossing some of them against the painted surface. And the building attached to the refectory on the back threatens to collapse. As events in Milan demonstrate, the new technology of aerial bombardment, and in particular of incendiary weapons, puts history's works of art, the most precious ones, in grave danger. Some of them will disappear, many of them in Italy, cancelled by the fury of man. It is as a consequence of this bombing that finally the American Congress establishes the famous Commission for the Protection and Salvage of Artistic and Historic Monuments in Europe. The corps that will become famous with just two words: the Monuments Men. They will play a decisive role in preserving Italy's treasures and will be one of the main characters of this story. Back to Rome. Marshal Badoglio and the king just want to get out of the war. So they need to find a way to start a negotiation with the Allies, who already in the Casablanca conference of the previous year have dictated the harsh demand for an unconditional surrender. But there is also a problem, how to break away from the alliance with the Germans. They are present in forces on the peninsula, and they are suspicious and they are ferocious like a wounded tiger. And here begins the ballet, which will soon turn into a tragedy. Marshal Badoglio is obsessed with secrecy. At first, he gives orders to contact the British and American ambassadors at the Vatican, but they are not able to communicate with their governments, ensuring reasonable secrecy. So he decides to play on a neutral ground, and he chooses Spain and Portugal. So he instructs General Castellano, a member of the High Command, to travel to Madrid and try and contact the British ambassador there. Castellano arrives in Madrid on August 15th, and fortunately he finds the British ambassador Hoare in the office. And the ambassador is unexpectedly quite courteous to him. So Castellano tells him that Italy could cooperate with the Anglo-Americans, and the government is willing to accept the unconditional surrender. But the government asks also to know where the Allies will land next. So his purpose and Badoglio's purpose is clear. The Italian government is under the illusion that there can be a negotiation among equals. The British ambassador gives him safe conduct for Lisbon, with a letter of accreditation for the fellow British ambassador to the government of Portugal, and then he telegraphs to the government in London, suggesting that they take into account the offers of Badoglio's envoy. So, in Lisbon, British Ambassador Campbell takes time to await the arrival of two military representatives that Eisenhower has just sent from his headquarters. His chief of staff, the American General Smith, and the head of the information services, the English Colonel Strong. They meet with Castellano on August 19th. It's a nice meeting. The two do not salute, they do not shake hands, they just nod. There's no room for negotiation. Italy must surrender unconditionally, they say. Castellano asks where and when the main landing in Italy would take place, and says that the Italian government would like the day of the armistice to be known 50 days in advance in order to effectively prepare the protection of the government and of the royal family. This is much more important in the negotiations than the hundreds of thousands of Italian soldiers scattered throughout Europe who will be deported or killed in the following years. Smith coldly replies that the announcement of the armistice will precede the main landing by a few hours, and that the Italians will know it on the same day. Castellano is equipped with a radio transmitter and a cipher, and Smith and Strong indicate the date of August 30th as the deadline by which the approval of Italy must be communicated. Castellano must report to Rome, but given the secrecy of the mission, he cannot, of course, use any communications channels. So he has no choice but to take the train back to Rome on a long journey. And he arrives on August 25th. Now, the incredible happens. To confirm the nervousness and apprehensions by the conspirators, Marshal Badoglio is convinced that Castellano's delay is due to an accident, or maybe he's been arrested by the Germans. So he orders a second mission led by a General Zanussi, who is to fly directly to Lisbon. The arrival of another Italian delegation produces dismay and surprise among the Allies. Eisenhower himself, informed of the new mission, wonders, are Italians still to be trusted? Out of prudence, he hijacks the planes by which Zanussi is returning to Italy, to Algiers. And here his advisors question Zanussi to clarify if he is a provocateur or even a spy. Fortunately, General Zanussi manages to clear all doubts, and he is then detained in Algiers. August 30th, the terms for surrender expire. Finally, Marshal Badoglio decides to accept, and with the transceiver he got from Castellano, he sends a message to confirm that Castellano will leave on the next day from Rome for Sicily. September 1st, Castellano meets with Smith and Storm in Cassibile, halfway between Noto and Syracuse. And there, he tries again to set conditions, and he suggests the idea of a joint operation near Rome, which would allow the Italian army to defend Rome and encourage the Italians to fight alongside the Allies. Now, the Anglo-Americans must think about it, and Smith moves the final decision date to the following day, September 1st, at noon. Castellano leaves for Rome. In the evening of September 1st, Badoglio broadcasts that Italy agrees to surrender and that Castellano will return to Sicily the next day with full powers. Unfortunately, it's not over. Badoglio has actually ordered Castellano to further bargain the timing and mode of the armistice, trying to know in detail the military contribution of the Allies to the fight. Castellano arrives at the Cassibile headquarters on September 2nd. The Allies are obviously in a hurry. Are you allowed to sign? No, I'm not, he says. At this point, the Allied negotiators lose patience and are about to send Castellano back to Rome. The Italian negotiator understands that it's not possible to prolong the game and asks Badoglio for the authority to sign. Finally, on September 3rd at 4:30 p.m. under 10 in Cassibile, the surrender is officially signed by Smith and Castellano, with Eisenhower standing aside. The announcement will be made jointly at 6:30 in one of the next few days, but the day will be indicated by the Allies. So, Italy has finally agreed to abandon its alliance with Germany and to leave the conflict. There is still a question standing: the joint operation in Rome. Two Eisenhower aides, General Taylor and Colonel Gardiner, set off for Rome to ascertain for the real feasibility of the operation. It's an adventurous journey into enemy territory. They use an Italian corvette to Gaeta and an ambulance into the city. After speaking with some officers of Badoglio's staff, on the evening of September 7th, they ask a meeting with the Marshal. But Badoglio tells them that the deployment of the Italian army in Rome will not be completed before September 15th. So it is necessary to postpone the announcement of the armistice, because otherwise the capital will be occupied by the Germans. Eisenhower does not accept a further delay. He has already decided that he will announce the armistice on September 8th, and in the meantime he suspends the operation on Rome. At 6:30 p.m. on September 8th, Radio Algiers announces the armistice with Italy and the end of the fighting. It will be the beginning of one of the darkest periods in the history of Italy. That's all for today. Please follow us on all social medias and on our website www.vitor.it. We wait for you. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye bye. See you. Arrivederci.